Let's get into it. What a week. The nation trembled when the Washington Post published a damning report on how the Bidens recently ate out at a restaurant and both ordered the same pasta entree. This, of course, sparked an online debate about whether or not that's acceptable. Oh, do you want the Bidens to try new dishes? Do you know what happens if Joe Biden is surprised by a fusion pasta dish with miso in it? I'll tell you what happens. President Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, the pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly announced plans to cut the price of its insulin drugs by 70% and cap patients' out-of-pocket costs at $35. A spokesperson for the company said, "It's cool, we'll just raise prices somewhere else." And then she spun a big game show wheel. President Biden, whose Inflation Reduction Act capped insulin for people on Medicare, praised the move in a tweet calling for other pharmaceutical companies to follow suit. In response, pharmaceutical companies offered to give opioid patients their first 3 hits free. Also this week, Congress voted to block a Biden administration rule to allow retirement fund managers to consider climate and social factors in their investment decisions. Advisors to President Biden have already confirmed that he plans to veto the bill. It's a completely performative culture war. No one retires anymore. According to court evidence, Proud Boy leader Enrique Tarrio told his followers in late December that it could be useful that people expected the Proud Boys to attack on January 6th, texting, "Misinformation is a good tool." Tarrio then added, and this is real, "Fuck, did I just Goebbels this thing?" Referring, of course, to Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propagandist, which is obviously disgusting. This trend of turning nouns into verbs has gone far enough. Hashtag Goebbels-ing. A photo of Tennessee Governor Bill Lee surfaced of him in drag the same day he announced his plans to support anti-drag legislation. "I can't lose Drag Race if I'm the only one left," said the governor, while putting on lipstick and cackling in an abandoned moonshine distillery deep in the Smokies. If you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? A Trump-appointed federal judge in Texas is set to rule on a lawsuit attempting to halt the distribution of mifepristone, one of the 2 drugs used to induce abortions. The race is on in Texas to somehow prove mifepristone can also be turned into bullets. How many times am I going to shrug through this thing? Deal with it. After a multi-year investigation involving about 1,000 cases, 5 U.S. intelligence agencies have found that the cluster of symptoms known as the Havana syndrome was not caused by some kind of space ray gun or energy weapon. Sounds to me like they were simply Havana weird time. Thank you. Anyway, it says here in the report that Havana syndrome, oh no, escaped from a lab in Wuhan. The Air Force fired 2 commanders and 4 other service members at a key nuclear base in North Dakota after their units failed a nuclear safety inspection. "Yeah, I get it's bad to leave my keys in there," said one commander, "but wouldn't it be worse if I needed the keys and I couldn't find them? Think about it." On Monday, Republican Representative Andrew Ogles admitted that he doesn't really have a degree in international relations, as he had earlier claimed, but instead had majored in liberal studies. Sensing a threat, George Santos immediately puffed up to twice his size. This isn't the first time Ogles has exaggerated his accomplishments. Previously, according to Nashville's WTVF, Ogles claimed he was an economist, even though he had, in reality, only taken 1 economics course at a community college, a course he almost failed. This is like a kid in grade school saying that he was friends with the Ninja Turtles, but really he just ate pizza that he found in a sewer. Ogles also repeatedly claimed he was a trained law enforcement officer who specialized in international child sex trafficking. In reality, that also wasn't true, but a nice change of pace from the Republicans who lie about not being involved in child sex trafficking. Speaking of grifters, the House Ethics Committee has finally announced an investigation into New York Representative George Santos and his teetering pile of legal issues. The committee has indicated that if George Santos turns out to be 3 kids in a trench coat, all of them will be held accountable, not just the head. Meanwhile, in an investigation by the St. Louis Dispatch, almost 24 parents of trans kids receiving health care at Washington University's Transgender Center at St. Louis Children's Hospital pushed back on one former employee's viral allegations about the clinic. "I feel like I could go line by line through her affidavit and debunk it all," said one employee who worked alongside the self-described whistleblower Jamie Reed in yet another investigation of the claims, this time by the Missouri Independent. A 17-year-old named Chloe exposed the former employee's lie that the clinic never discontinues cross-sex hormones, telling reporters that doctors were supportive when she decided to halt her estrogen therapy. "It was amazing," she said. "I live my life according to one simple principle, and that principle is to never do anything that could ever result in a bunch of teens calling me a fucking liar in the newspaper." A parent whose teenager was anxious for gender-affirming surgery refuted Reed's claim that the clinic regularly referred minors for surgery, recalling that a nurse told her son, "Put it out of your mind, we don't do that here." I've had a McDonald's employee say that to me about a secret menu item I saw on TikTok. It's tough to hear, but in the end, maybe tough love. All the parents said that the clinic was slow to begin medical interventions, required that the whole family be on the same page, and meticulously reviewed all options and side effects, which is crazy. I, a reasonable adult, believe that children were walking into a medical center and saying, "Trick or trans," and walking out with a pillowcase full of puberty blockers. The most unbelievable part of these reassignment surgery conspiracy theories, the idea that getting surgery scheduled in the United States wouldn't be a drawn-out pain in the ass. That's not the America I know and keep my slop in. Point is, as a rule of thumb, whenever the anti-woke contact factory serves up an easy trans-related villain, it's gonna be bullshit. That non-binary Biden official who keeps snatching suitcases at the airport, exception that proves the rule. And shout out to that person. Taking publicity photos to document your path-breaking career in politics in outfits you stole from the luggage carousel at Dulles, iconic queer behavior. I don't know if you've seen this person in the outfits that they stole, but they are wearing magnificent, beautiful, fashionable garments. Most suitcases don't have those in them. How many suitcases do you have to steal filled with Old Navy fucking neutrals to end up with magnificent designer gowns? 10 out of 10. The brazenness of it. Meanwhile, just this week, in part based on these anti-trans misinformation campaigns, of which Jamie Reed's claims are a part, Mississippi and Tennessee banned gender-affirming care for minors, with these politicians telling doctors and parents they can't help kids they know and love most. For those keeping track, parents in Mississippi can't sign off on medical care as recommended by their doctor and the medical community for their 17-year-old kid, but they can sign off on their 15-year-old daughter getting married and therefore no longer being protected by the state's law against statutory rape. In Mississippi, parents get to look out for their kids' best interests as long as they happen to align perfectly with the interests of a 50-year-old pervert with a hankering for a child bride. We knew that we spent a while realizing we weren't going to get a single laugh out of this. It is so fucking dark. And that was what we landed on. You have no idea what we went through. On Monday, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill giving himself greater control over Disney by putting a 5-person board made of Republicans handpicked by DeSantis in charge of the Central Florida district where Disney World resides. While the board is mainly in charge of maintenance and infrastructure, DeSantis wants a say in Disney's creative decisions, scolding the company for trying to inject woke ideology into their children's entertainment. Here in Florida, DeSantis continued, "We believe anything that isn't exactly like it was when I personally was a child is disgusting. Back when I was a kid, Disney knew that if a character was swishing around the screen like the boys in my school who did the play, they were trying to trick a princess or kill the brother or find a magical lamp. These days, I saw the moving story of friendship and love and belonging that is Luca. I loved it. Then I find out it's an allegory for being gay. Folks, I threw up for 3 hours straight. The Thai lettuce wraps came up. The factory burrito grande came up. The Adam's Ripple cheesecake came up." Hey, Ron. If you want to say in Disney's content, you can pursue it like the rest of us. Spend the best years of your life honing your craft in the hopes that a major conglomerate hires you to write the next cultural touchstone, only to eventually settle for writing jokes for a podcast. Who wrote this? What the fuck? How did that get in there? That's bullshit. Said the Florida governor.
When you lose your way, you gotta have people that are going to tell you the truth, and so we hope that they can get back on. But I think all these board members very much would like to see the type of entertainment that all families can appreciate.
Look, we believe in freedom here in Florida. We have to protect our freedom to make sure private companies and individuals don't do things that we don't like. That's what freedom means. So the government is going to appoint a group of people to keep an eye on Disney's content, a kind of bureau, if you will, a political bureau. And we can shorten that if you want. The effect of this intimidation was immediately chilling. We spent 2 weeks filming a poignant scene where I fist Gaston for the Beauty and the Beast prequel, and now the world will probably never see it, said a despondent Josh Gad as he stared longingly at a candelabra. Inside of that is the idea that at some point Lumiere is involved in some kind of a sexual experience. Meanwhile, DeSantis revealed in his new book, The Courage to Be Free, that he agreed to get married at Disney World on the condition that no Disney characters be present at the wedding. That is the best possible compromise. We can get married at that place you like as long as it's scrubbed of everything you love about it. Sure, we can get married at Matt Schlapp's house, but absolutely no incognito browsers and no secret gay yearning so powerful the walls vibrate with shame and unmet need. Yeah, really be keeping up with the news to get that one. I'm not helping you at all with that one. New York City Mayor Eric Adams waved off the pesky separation of church and state during an interfaith breakfast this week, saying this.
Don't tell me about no separation of church and state. State is the body, church is the heart. You take the heart out of the body dies.
0.8% swings the other way in that ranked choice vote. New York could have a no-nonsense sanitation commissioner as mayor whose weirdest quotes wouldn't crack the Eric Adams top 100. But no. Adams continued.
I can't separate my belief because I'm an elected official. When I walk with God. When I talk with God. When I put policies in place, I put them in with a God-like approach to them. That's who I am.
And when you saw only one set of footprints, that's when I was sitting on God's shoulders, pointing out rats for him to stomp on. Speaking of the Big Apple, New York City's Department of Transportation botched a road sign for the Jackie Robinson Parkway in Queens, accidentally spelling it Jakey. Which is tough, but to be fair, a lot less offensive than the signs Jackie was used to when he was alive. That, pearls before fucking swine. That's the best joke of the night. You let that in. Let it in. That's the best you're getting. Show some goddamn respect. You laugh when someone gives you something as good as that. That's how comedy works. I tell you what's funny, and you laugh at it. The Los Angeles Police Protective League announced a list of almost 30 potential types of calls they may send unarmed officers or service providers to instead of an armed response. These calls include welfare and mental health checks, including checking on the cops who signed up for having a gun, not this fag shit. Shut up. A judge ruled this week in its attempt to stop union organizing, Starbucks committed egregious and widespread violations of labor laws. As part of the punishment, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz will be required to make a video in which he reads workers their rights while two hooded baristas stand over his shoulders with Kalashnikovs. Tesla's CEO and the first person to accidentally snort Ozempic, Elon Musk, defended Scott Adams, whose Dilbert comic strip was dropped by newspapers after he went on a YouTube rant calling for, you guessed it, segregation. Most people don't know this, but Dilbert was actually Scott Adams' second comic strip. His first was Calvin and Hobbes versus the Board of Education. Elon is at least consistent. He also supported Charles Schultz after the release of the disastrous It's a Race War, Charlie Brown. I'm going to tell you something, and this is on the prompter. We planned to tell you this in advance. We debated turning this into one superior joke, which would be Charlie Brown versus the Board of Education. But we liked them individually too much. As Instagram rapidly expands its Reels feature to compete with TikTok, some users have complained that the platform is serving them horrific videos of people and animals being maimed and killed. Don't worry, everybody. It's just cake. A new study shows LGBTQ youth are less likely to become depressed if their parents support their identity. When reached for comment, the control group said, "I'm gonna be a star, okay? I'm gonna be so fucking famous." Far-right extremists are boycotting Hershey after they included a trans woman in their International Women's Day campaign. They think they're mad now. Just wait till they hear about Mrs. Goodbar. Katarina Nash, an Olympic mountain biker and cross-country skier from the Czech Republic, was almost flagged for doping after her dog's medicine got into her system through her skin. They're calling it airbudding. The dangerous new drug craze sweeping literally one random Olympic athlete. Scientists at the Center for Whale Research have started observing female orcas who are feeding and caring for their male offspring well into adulthood, while they observe the male offspring posting Family Guy memes to Reddit and messaging girls they went to high school with on Facebook. This week, actor Steven Seagal was awarded the Order of Friendship by Vladimir Putin for contributing to better international relations with Russia. Friend-zoned. What a simp. A Spirit Airlines flight from Dallas to Orlando was grounded after a battery in a passenger's carry-on caught fire in the overhead compartment. According to authorities, the battery caught fire when the crew tried to use it to power the plane. The fire was especially dangerous because the overhead compartments are where Spirit keeps the hay for the goats. And finally, a dark, crusty fungus fed by whiskey vapors from a Jack Daniel's distillery has taken over a Tennessee town, coating homes, trees, cars, and patio furniture. Sorry, but distilling can have unpredictable consequences. It's a whiskey business.
It's love it or leave it.